many things that you as an individual need to look at. And now joining us is Steve Gamba, who is manager for security services at Safaricom, and is going to be giving us his perspective and from now what it means to a company when it comes to data protection. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Last year, we received a lot of attacks at different entities within the country, different companies. There were really attacks, very many attacks, even universities, government entities as well. So therefore, when it comes to how we have secured our data as a country, in terms of companies, in terms of organizations, and also personal information, are we at a place where you can say our data is safe?
Yes, I can say our data is safe, but also adding to that, it's really important to also have in mind that we are not fully immune. So the attacks will always be there. We need to always keep in mind how to respond. And from the attacks that you just mentioned is, for us, key from our security services and operations perspective is, in case there is an attack, how fast can we respond and how fast can we control or mitigate this kind of attacks as they come in. So that is really key. And what we learned from this number of attacks that we were seeing last year, and some were even still seeing beginning of this year, is it's really important to have an incident response plan so that when the attack comes, we know exactly what to do, we know whom to involve, and what areas do we need to probably touch base so that we get to mitigate, just to prevent the scope, and also to ensure that the attack does not spread to doesn't affect a lot of assets, a lot of users. Then we get just to control and minimize it to the manageable scope. Yes.
All right. Now, for bigger organizations, when it comes to security, the data security and also privacy, what should they really look at, and where could be the gap that usually they forget, especially for a bigger organization?
First thing would be user awareness, because this is critical, because it's now where the user is interacting with these assets, with this infrastructure, with this ecosystem, and that is where the attacker would want to exploit. Beyond user awareness is also to understand the type of attacks, getting to know the attack vectors. How do the attacker get to exploit or probably just get to misuse the weaknesses that we have within the whole ecosystem? So when we start from there, making sure that every user is aware, and not just as a business, because some of the attacks we are seeing coming from home, it's a network that you connected to on a restaurant somewhere, a network you connected to, or a Wi-Fi that you connected to at a public place. So user awareness extending to home, not just to the business, because a lot of business have already invested and really invested big in cybersecurity, then getting to put in the controls. So the awareness part is really key, and getting to know the attack types, the vectors that the attackers are coming in, and what controls that we want to put in place to minimize that. Of course, depending on the risk appetite that you have. So if it is high risk, probably would want to start from there.
Sure. Right. And now, you've mentioned about public Wi-Fi's where people go and connect. You go to a mall, you want to connect, you go to maybe a stage where you're standing just waiting for a matatu, and then there's a public Wi-Fi there that you can use. So therefore, what would you advise? Should people really be careful of the public Wi-Fi's? Because someone will go and they don't have data, but they want to connect to the public Wi-Fi. So when it comes to how to treat a public network that is being used by very many people, how does someone go about it?
Definitely should be very keen on the Wi-Fi you're connected to, because this is basically you giving access to this person that you're trusting to be giving you the public Wi-Fi.
Yes.
So first thing before you connect, you just really need to be very sure that you can trust the provider of that Wi-Fi, and also next step probably to have controls within your gadgets, if it's a laptop or phone, to have the controls that would get to minimize intrusion to your system, so that if in any case they get to have access or it's a rogue Wi-Fi, you can detect, probably prevent you at the first place. So having that security not as an afterthought, but at the beginning, just being cautious and at some point probably even paranoid that this could be an attacker just setting a trap for me. That would be a very good thing to start from. Yeah.
All right. And now to another issue. For example, now, someone wants to set their own Wi-Fi in the house, and they've secured the router, they've been connected very well to the internet. At the end of the day, what happens when someone like maybe in an apartment now is sharing the Wi-Fi with other people? Is that also something that invites a lot of attacks also? Or if the person is using by themselves, could it be that the sharing is inviting more attacks?
The sharing, of course, is inviting more attacks, because the more you get to share that, you wouldn't be really sure who is accessing what. But if you have the controls, that would be a good place to probably just set up and begin with. And also, when you are sharing probably within an apartment, and this access, you don't know who else is sharing, the controls that you have in place that may be working at that time, it's really important that you keep on checking, because security evolve, systems evolve. So if there is a vulnerability, a weakness within any system or any control that you had implemented initially, and you have not upgraded or patched that particular weakness, it could be a point of entry. So you may have the controls working right now, but 2 months, 3 months down the line, that control is more or less obsolete. So it can be exploited and somebody gets to the network. So reducing the access is one way, but also ensuring that these controls have regular checks and updates, and your systems also get regular checks and updates, is also key in making sure that you are protected.
All right, and now let's move to, now we are in 2024, of course. We are in the second month of 2024, and when you look at this particular space, what are some of the trends that are going to shape this particular space going forward in 2024? And we'll speak about AI. It has come to my mind. We'll speak about AI even after you've answered this. When you look at 2024, what are some of the things that we can look at and say, okay, the cybersecurity is going to be like this because of this and this and this and this?
So AI is key. That is one
Yes.
of them. Another area that I'm really keen and interested in that we've seen for the past month is IoT, because now we have smart everything.
Yes.
Smart devices, smart houses, and all this. So that area is really key. It's going to influence the cybersecurity space a lot. We're also seeing an emergence on quantum computing,
Yes.
which is also key in just way, because you can also there's a philosophy we use to prevent ourselves called defense in depth. That is where you have a layered security approach. So same way you have the guards at the gate, then you have the controls at the reception, then you have the lifts. So the security in depth helps you to have just controls at every space, every place within, or as you cut across the network. So we are seeing some emergence in quantum computing, where they get to crack even data that it is just stored on your servers and it is encrypted already. So they have the power to run some computing mechanism and just crack that and get to access that data. So we are seeing quantum computing coming up. We are seeing an emergence in ransomware. So there's a lot of ransom coming in, of course, through malicious software, the malwares that are coming in. We are seeing phishing attacks, a point where somebody just clicks on a link within the, may it be on the phone, on your laptop, somebody sends you an invite, you just want to probably click in and see what is going on there before even verifying if it is genuine or not. So some of these get to influence what we've seen so far. That is the second month, probably even not mid of the second month. Some of the things that we've seen also carrying forward from what we've seen from the last 2-3 months of the year 2023. So we believe from what we see and the insights that we have, it's going to really influence what we are seeing in the cybersecurity space. So we are having a keen eye on that, on this many other domains that are influencing the cybersecurity space.
All right. Even as you mentioned, as we are evolving, as we are moving, technologies involving. We have AI these days. We have Chat GPT.
Sure.
We have all these new innovations. And when you look at AI, these days someone might use your picture and put it in an image, and it just looks exactly like you. So therefore, when it comes to how people need to protect their own data, what usually goes into place, and what does someone have to get people to help them maybe secure their data, and how does someone say, okay, this mobile phone that I have is secure and no one can really get to this? I believe there are people who of course hack all the time. Sure. But how do we, even as an ordinary Kenyan, say, okay, I know the information that I have here is not going to get to any other person?
Sure. So firstly would be to understand how it will get to that other person. How can it get to that other person? What are the venues that data that may be very critical to you can get to that other person? And then start from there, going backwards. How do we prevent that? Of course, it starts from user awareness. So for the case of generative AI, you can also get to implement that, because for the AI is about accuracy and speed, and also packed with automation bits. So if we can also use that and convert that challenge as an opportunity to also respond using the AI and machine learning, getting to pick all these anomalies and respond immediately, or able to detect probably from a hunt perspective, just getting to traverse within the ecosystem, within the network, to see what looks fishy and put in the controls as a proactive step, not getting to respond to an incident that has happened. So that is first, to prepare. Mm-hmm. Then getting to know on this preparation, to what extent does it get to be deployed? Do you need new resources? Do you need more users? Do you need more experts to probably test? You think you are safe, but are you sure that you are really safe? How do we verify that? Then, if in case, because you're not immune to attack, even we see even state agencies, even the highly sophisticated security companies are also being attacked. Mm. So how do you get to respond in terms of an attack? More of an emergency response. How fast do you get to recover? How fast do you get to mitigate the loss, quote unquote, of that attack? Then what are the learnings and how do we improve? So it is a continuous change, it's a continual process. It's not a destination that you arrive at, but it's a process and a journey that you keep on building, because the objective of this attacker is not to just exploit, it is to gain something. So are they having access to that data? So it doesn't matter which method they use. Are they having are they making your systems unavailable, just as you mentioned? It doesn't matter which method they use. If it means breaking this building down, then they're still achieving the objective. Are they getting to access the data they don't have? Are they compromising the integrity of that data? Then, once you know that, we keep on checking what are the types, what are the ways that they can use to get to probably deem us attacked or probably compromised. Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right, very well explained. And for example, now let me just throw to you this. For example, Safaricom is hacked today as we are seated here. First of all, M-Pesa, the other time it delayed. I don't know if it was an attack, but it delayed. For example, now, if Safaricom is attacked today, what are some of the measures that you think are going to be put in place very fast in order for it to at least correct the situation?
So now bringing it home and to what Safaricom is doing, right now we have a Security Operations Center that gets to monitor 24 hours. So this Operations Center gets to pick indicators of attack and indicators of compromise. So before that attack happens, we have a team that simulate these kind of attacks. So if this is the way that attacker would use to compromise our systems and our infrastructure, we have a team that already does that, and you get to pick those from the beginning, just having a whole process, end-to-end process. So internally and also working externally with other teams, just to test our system continuously to make sure that every type of attack that we can think of is simulated, and there's another team that gets to detect this kind of attacks earlier on before it is an actual compromise. So that is one step. Beyond that, if in case probably there's a breach or an attack of any sort, then we have in place some processes as to how we get to respond. And these processes cut across different functions, different teams. So because every organization would have an emergency plan, right? So how does an incident plan get to work with your emergency plan? How does an incident attack or an incident response plan get to handshake with your business continuity plan? So we have all these processes in place, getting to know who comes when, and everyone who is involved is on standby. So the incident response plan with the different teams, with the different expertise is really key. But key for us is having a continuous monitoring 24/7, because you never know when they're coming. And also key beyond monitoring, just having the visibility, is to know those attack vectors, those attack types. So we get to pick them before they even happen, before we get to experience that denial of service, before we get to experience that phishing. We are seeing already some indicators, and we can begin also to respond and mitigate, just recover on the scope.
All right, Steve, we have to end it right there. Thank you so much for sharing with us your insights. That is Steve Gamba, who is a security manager for the whole Safaricom, just giving us his perspective when it comes to cybersecurity, what is going to shape this particular industry going forward, and what companies need to do. And one thing I've picked from him is you need to have a good response and a really fast response to an